Today I'm joined by Mia Pallas Clark. She's an international show jumping coach, trainer, mentor with over 25 years of experience in the sport. So Mia has coached riders all around the world. Looking at your bio, especially, I've learned more about you, having worked with the England pony team since
Yeah.
2017, coaches for the British Army show jumping team, and she brings such a valuable perspective on performance, pressure, confidence, and what riders really need to develop themselves, both physically and mentally. So, in the episode today, I wanted to bring Mia on into this conversation, not only with her years of experience as a coach, but also around female equestrian health, because as riders, we often talk about training the horse and we don't always shift the perspective onto ourselves, our energy, mindset, health, and actually not only what we bring to this equation with our horse, but how much of how we show up on the day can affect the performance of our horse, even if you have the best trainer, the best tack in the world. So, Mia, great to have you here.
Thank you, Nika. It's great to be here. Love to share this information. It's very good.
So, I first came across experience of yourself on the female health campaign with British Equestrian Podcast and loved your real, relatable stories, but also just very honest and open approach to being an equestrian coach and also rider in the sport. So I suppose let's just start with how did you get into coaching?
Oh, wow. Yeah. I think, oh gosh, it was such a long time ago. So my mum was really instrumental in my life. And when I decided I wanted to go into the sport, she said, okay, then you need to have many strings to your bow. And buying and selling, producing horses is one of them. Coaching is the other one. I'm not very good at selling horses because I fall in love with them all. So the coaching thing is definitely something that's quite natural in me, I think. And I definitely loved it right from the get-go, and was very much encouraged down that route. So good mum, got me straight away on the route of getting my qualifications. So in the UK, we've got the BHS system. Or then in the early 90s, when I was doing it, that was really the only way to go. So at the age, I think I was about 18, 19, she got me straight in there to get my initial coaching qualifications, which was at the time called the BHS AI. So that was my first step on the ladder of coaching. Um, yeah, so it was sort of 90, oh God, 91, 92. I went then to Germany and spent 5 years there working for the AMG Mercedes show jumping team under the watchful eye of Nelson Pessoa. So I did coach eventually there in German too, which was another amazing thing to do. Gosh, that was hard work initially, but now I love it because I absorbed so much. But yeah, so I kind of got the qualifications, started my route, and then went off and did something else. But then that became really key to my role, and yeah, that's my whole being really is coaching. It's a
And
big
do you
part of me.
still ride alongside the coaching now? The riding
Yeah,
is
so
still
I
loads
have
of coaching?
yeah, absolutely, because I also feel like every time you ride, every time you compete, that you also learn, and it makes you very relatable, obviously, to your clients, and also brings more information and learning to the table. I have for quite a long time understood that actually to earn a living in the sport, for me, the coaching is the way is the way my career has gone, and to coach effectively and to earn a living. At one point, I was riding and running about four, five, six horses, but a lot of the time in my life, I've had one or two, normally, often one very special one, just because of the time that you need, obviously, to dedicate to training and competition. And actually, that's kind of the shop window, and it's the coaching that's the work. So yes, I still have my one very special mare, which has often repeated itself through my life as well. I'm very lucky to have a very special mare. I'm definitely a mare's girl. Um, so Mouse, bless her, is a legend. I've had her 10 years. I bought her as a 4-year-old. We've done so much together. We've competed on the veteran Europeans team for Great Britain a couple of years ago, which is another good thing about getting older, that other doors open. I'm only going to grow into the veterans team. And yes, so competition right now in this last 12 months, having started a very big role at Millfield School, has definitely gone onto the back burner. But it's important still to get out and do so, which I've probably been out about 4, 5, 6 times in the last 12 months. But hey, when I get out, I'm very happy and uh, feeling a bit rusty actually. When you're not out as often, you really feel the adrenaline, the nerves, the clunkiness. And again, I just think, well, I'm learning. I'm learning all the time to help the riders that I coach. And the thrill of success or succeeding in whatever goal you've set yourself,
Mm.
achieving that's so important. So it brings it back to me all the time, how to pitch to the riders what they need to be doing. So
Yeah, I really resonate with that, especially with the you have like your coaching hat, but then you
yeah,
also have that I'm in the trenches with you because we all know that, riding a horse, it's never that smooth trajectory. And it's nice that I relate this to myself as a body worker, having ridden and still riding, there's certain horses that I'll work with where I'm like, oh, you're not fitting the mold here. And if I was riding you, and it's nice to have that relatability with those skills, as you said, that if you don't use, you lose.
definitely.
Just being on
Yeah,
the
I
ground
think
all the time.
it's really it is important, and we're very lucky. I feel incredibly lucky still to be able to, experience that and feel that. And the other thing that's quite cool is I love to train. So as a coach, I often feel that I'm the one doing the support all the time, and I don't actually get enough for myself. But I've learned finally to seek training from some of my awesome colleagues, and that then becomes a coaching conversation as well as me then actually delivering, which is great, to
Mm.
be able to be collaborative like that. I love that.
You can be in their shoes. I really like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And looking at your background and obviously now also hearing about where you also went to Germany, that sounds like an interesting few stories that happened.
Mm.
So I suppose if I zoom out and would love to ask you, do you notice any differences, key differences between, say, the females or the men that you coach or have coached over the years, more in approach to how they ride or how they respond to coaching? Is there a difference between how you would coach a female and a male?
Wow, yeah, it's a huge question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, and also sort of younger men or boys, sort of going into and being in puberty, and then your amateur male riders that maybe come to the sport later in life or have been in the sport and then come back to it, and then your professional men. Um, Same with the women as well. So I think I've experienced all, all types really. Um, I think a really good example would be of the sort of older man that has probably been very successful in his career or is very successful in his career. And by older, I just mean not, you know, not sort of 18, 20, maybe into their 30s, 40s, and even into their 50s. I had an amazing experience in the early 2000s. I was part of a TV show called Only Fools on Horses. And that was like it was a charity TV show where celebs learned to show jump. And I was one of the coaches on that. And one of the men who was, well, not only one of them, but one in particular, an absolutely stormingly successful businessman, and he could not understand why he could not, be good at riding this horse as in the way that he wanted to, because he could make other things happen. And and I've seen this a few times. It like, can I pay it more? No, you can't. Can I pay someone to do it for me? No, you can't. Why is this so hard? It's about patience and feel and listening, and you can't muscle your way through this. And I think that is the amazing thing about our sport, and why it's on such a level playing field between men and women as well, which is something I just think is wonderful. Um, because it doesn't matter physically, physically you have to be strong mentally, not physically, to be able to deal with it or make that connection to the horses. So that was fascinating, a fascinating experience that's repeated itself. Um,
Are you allowed to share more on that? How that partnership developed or ended or
well, I'm thinking of a few examples of a similar thing.
yeah.
And I think that so in that scenario, there was our lead trainer was a guy called Tim Stockdale, who you may remember. Bless him, God bless him. He left us way too early. Tim was a guy who was, self-made. He worked incredibly hard. He was a very good coach because he had to learn to do things. He wasn't very natural, and I actually would say that about myself. That if you're a Whittaker or a Beerbaum or any one of these incredibly natural riders in the world, Fox Inning, um, I think is very instinctive.
Mm,
I've had to work really hard to understand the process, and Tim would have said that the same of himself. So therefore, you're able to share that process with riders of every level. Um, and Tim also was frustrated in that scenario with these amateur riders, who they were amateur riders, but were very successful professional people in whatever they were in. But I think he was also frustrated with it and wanted to set up the horse. You know, we would ride, we would prepare the horse, we would prepare the round, we would. But at the end of the day, the rider still had to, have the wherewithal and be able to react in that moment, and no one can do it for them. So I think that was a very, really important learning in my time that it's about you and the horse in the moment. No one can do it for you. You have to take that time. And I know some guys that have really dedicated their hobby, if you like, to the sport. And yeah, I've had to learn to be patient and humble and listen and not just swap the horse because that one doesn't work. So yeah, it's wonderful to see. And I'm always in admiration of those chaps that not only men, but it stands out, I think, in that scenario.
mm.
Um, yeah,
I really like that, and I suppose as a coach, I certainly want to help more, like almost
mm,
set everything up around it so that it can naturally be a smooth process. But you've hit the nail on the head. Like you can have all your ducks in a row, but at the end of the day, it's between you and your horse. And we know this subjectively, and there's more science coming to it now, to the forefront of how much these horses read us
yeah,
inside. They don't read what we're saying on the outside to, human to human. It's more of like, okay, what's going on here that I'm picking
yeah,
up on? And yeah, that's a really interesting example of like the successful businessman, who
yeah,
I can imagine is very systematic and logical minded, to
yeah,
then come to a mammal and
yeah.
interact.
Yeah, and I think and I could talk about that in lots of different humans that I've worked with at different stages of their life. The the young child of sort of 8, 10, 11 who they're great to work with. Because on the whole they're just really they go for it. They crack on, they kick on, they have a great time. Then they hit sort of 12 and the hormones start to kick in, and that's really difficult. Or well, I mean, I actually really, really remember being 15 because I really remember being awful and hating. I'm sure I apologized to my mum later in my life because you're just not in control of your emotions, and it's really difficult. And at the moment, I'm working with a lot of riders of that age, so between 14 and 18. And it's really tough sometimes. It's especially really tough as a woman of my age not to get riled as well when their emotions rise and your chimp jumps out as well because everybody's got hormones. Yeah, it's fascinating, and just to understand that more. And of course, the horses are the ones that teach us the most, because they feel everything and they respond to everything. And I think that's always been the biggest thing about coaching that I absolutely love, is when you get that moment of connection with the horse. Of course, I love that when I'm on them, but I also love it when I'm on the ground and they sort of look at you and go, "Thank you, thanks for
Mm,
listening," because you've been able to make that connection between them and their rider.
mm,
So yeah, that's the most satisfying part of the job.
mm. You've briefly mentioned about remembering your body changes, motions at 15. Do you mind sharing kind of where you are today on, I call it the hormonal age like spectrum. I don't mean your physical age. I just mean like, for example, myself at 37, still have a regular menstrual cycle. But obviously then we can go, a lot of us can then transition into the perimenopausal years, menopausal, postmenopausal. So do you mind sharing with us like how the transition was from 15 to did it impact you? Were you aware of all these changes happening, especially with the horses and the coaching?
It's I hated turning 30, don't know why. Loved turning 40, loved even more turning 50. But the whole perimenopause, menopause, it's all retrospective, which is
Mm,
really annoying, because so stuff happens and you at the time you don't know, you don't think, oh, that's what it is, or at least I didn't. I have become much more aware through my own experiences, and through going, all right, I really need to understand this, and wanting to understand how affects riders too. And I know there's so much more research happening now, which is why I'm really keen to always to be part of anything that helps and discusses this, because I really don't think that we as women in our 40s and into the 50s um, have before now given this enough time and enough credit and enough thought. I'm pretty positive. Well, my mum didn't share with me what was going on with her, because you just got on with it. And there's definitely still that mentality, and that's absolutely fine. And aren't we all, tough horsewomen and all the rest of it? Actually, why, when you can help yourself? So when I look back, absolutely over the last few years. So the year that I was on the Europeans team, actually that was 2022. Um, I would say that was the first year that I looked back and understood that there were menopausal changes happening there. I fell off 20, oh, when was it? 2004. 2004, I fell off at a show in the warm-up, broke my leg. It's very annoying. Um, and 2022, so what was that, 18 years later, I was at a show in the summer before I went to the Europeans. Didn't know I was going to the Europeans there. It was sort of in July. And I went to a show, and I went on my own, as I often do. It was a county show, and I jumped two classes. And because there was not a lot of time in between, I stayed up at the ring. I was on my own, so I stayed on the horse. I got off to walk the course, hopped back on, whatever, jumped the two classes, fantastic. Took the studs out, loaded up, drove home, got back to the yard, went to get out of the car, and my knee couldn't bend it. It had got stuck. So it had almost like it was like it hadn't dislocated, but it felt like it had. And that was the very first time that happened. I spent the next 6 months, including being at the Europeans, in absolute agony when I didn't tell anyone. Because that knee kept clunking out of place a bit, the broken one, that is, that still is, well, not broken anymore, it's got metal in it. And it wouldn't kind of clunk back. I was using Arc Equine, I was using Reiki, I was anything and anything I could think of, that taping. I did go and have regular sort of sports massage and taping. That helped. But I really didn't tell anyone how much it flipping hurt. And when I was at the Europeans, oh my God, it hurt. Thankfully, it was fine when I was in the saddle and my foot was in the stirrup, but I wasn't walking very well. And then I would put all my weight on my other leg, and, knock-on effects and everything else. Sort of 9 months later, I must have been reading something about the menopause, the perimenopause. Well, your ligaments lose their elasticity. And then the penny drops, and I'm like, oh my God, of course. Well, so it's clunked into a weird position and it's not going back because the ligaments have lost their elasticity in the knee, and that was why. So, in first dip of the toe was to go for some kind of herbal treatments, which I actually then at the same time managed to get to speak to my doctor, and she said, look, try this and make sure it's got these ingredients in it. Think it was red clover, St. John's wort, I believe. One other thing, gosh, I wish I could remember. That's another thing that you have to not worry about, just forgetting things. Fine. And she said, if it makes even a little bit of a difference, then we know we're on the right track. And that's when I also recognised and realised that I've got a superb doctor here, and she's very forwards thinking to all things menopause, which I'm so grateful for. Definitely cried with emotion to her before now. So thank you so much for listening to me being ridiculous. My sister had a very different experience. She went to her doctor with similar things. She's 8 years younger than me, and she was basically told, well, she'd have to get on with it because that was, the age that she was at, and tough kind of thing, which made me so cross. And she had to go private to actually get some help. Um, so that was then probably by a year after it first occurred, I started my journey onto HRT. And within a month, yep, my leg was a million times better. It might still clunk around a bit, but it wasn't a problem. It went back where it should be. And touch wood, on the whole, yes, I still favour my other leg too much, but it certainly helped me so much. So that was the first thing I learned.
Talk about
But
learning the hard way, right?
yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. Um, the other thing, and again, talking about your menstrual cycle, absolutely goes crazy at some point where you don't know whether you're coming or going, which is not great when you're in white breeches, going to competitions. So I was absolutely delighted to be part of the reason why British Showjumping introduced grey breeches in the first place. And that's now even progressed to we can wear any colour, really, navy, black, which I love. And
Mm.
it's so interesting for me that many of my colleagues of the similar age are going for the dark look. But the youngsters are still sticking with the white ones, which I'm really surprised at. And I asked them and I say, what you do? You don't have to wear white. We have to wear white for FEI, but we don't have to wear white for national. No, no, but I like to wear white because it makes me feel like, it's a special occasion. And so, like, great. But
Wow,
I,
that's
I,
interesting. It's
it is, isn't it?
more the aesthetic look as
Yes.
opposed to maybe the women who are choosing the darker look. It's just like, listen, this is practical emergency. If this goes down, you know.
And I think it looks cool, actually. I really like it. And it also, I don't know, from the mindset point of view, it feels I have to get into that mindset when I'm competing of, yeah, this is just normal. This is another day. I'm still training or I'm just
Yeah.
showcasing my training. So for me, from a mindset point of view, it works really well. Um, yeah, sometimes it's nice to put the lights on and go, oh yeah, this is a special occasion. But on the whole, I really appreciate that. And I think it looks great. I know not everyone agrees.
I'm
Um,
just really happy to see that come into play. And I wish it was around when I was doing dressage many years ago, because I'm someone who has PCOS, and when my cycles are here, even though they are regular, so very grateful for that. When it's here, and the flow is, and I think back now to riding when you're competing, because for me it was like I'm competing. I don't care what's happening with the body. Like I'm here for the horse. I'm showing up. I'm
yeah,
competitive. But also thinking, oh my God, I need to get off this horse away from public. When I jump down, I don't know what the situation is going to be like. And now that
absolutely.
now that I think back and what we know about how much our asymmetries, our internal state, whether it's in the body or this mind anxiety that we sometimes get with competition. I loved what you said about treating every competition actually as just a showcasing your training as opposed to, that's interesting. We can maybe dive into that from the coaching side because I
Yeah.
see that a lot with riders everywhere in the world where, they'll say, my horse is so good at home, and I go to competition and it feels like I'm riding a different horse. And it's amazing. The horse can react, we know, to different environments and stimulus, but what about us as riders? We almost go into not forgetting how to ride, but we totally hold ourselves differently because we have people watching us. You know,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
how can horses not pick up on it?
Of course they do. No, they definitely do. Yeah,
Mm.
that's yeah, that's something that I use for myself, definitely.
Mm. And so going through all the changes you mentioned with your cycle, like did you obviously coaching as well during the time? How did you cope with coaching, showing up for your clients and going through these changes? You mentioned you've had some support from a great doctor.
Yeah.
How did you navigate all of this?
It's interesting. I find coaching as I want to no, not so, I was going to say the word solace. I don't mean that. Just coaching and being in that space with the rider and the horse over the years is a really safe space for me where no matter what else is going on, I can switch it off because I'm in that space with the rider. Um, through other tricky times of life, my divorce, whatever, and when everything feels really stressful and it's really, things can be really tough. I actually find that time with the riders that I can focus and concentrate. Um, One thing though I have had to do is to be clearer about the amount of coaching I can do. I think a lot of young coaches think it's I don't know. I think that they have to coach for 12 hours in a row. It's just crazy. I wouldn't want to be their 10th, 11th, and 12th hour because I became really aware of sort of the mental fatigue and wanting to deliver the same quality throughout everything I do. So I understood to set a limit on the amount of hours I knew that I could do and still be really at my best. So generally I set a 6 hour day as my limit.
Mhm.
Because I don't want to get the hump and be exhausted and then be a bit grumpy at the end of the day or go through the motions. I never ever want to do that. So and then also recognizing, and this is a really tricky one, but recognizing and understanding that you are not the person for everybody because it's a relationship and you're going to clash. You're not going to have a wonderful relationship with everyone, and actually understanding that and
Mm.
being rather than beating yourself up or about that, or you know, looking for a cause or a reason somewhere, just go actually signpost that person to someone who will be able to do the right job for them. And that can be really hard. But I love working with other coaches. I love collaborating. As a mentor and a coach developer, I get to know other coaches really, really well.
Mm.
So I get to know who I think will fit with certain people. Um, so that's something I really, really do seek to do. As much as you want to do everything and please everyone and be part of everything, you have to understand where you work at your best. Um,
Mm. That
yeah,
is so,
that's
so important. Do you remember when you had that? I'm sure it wasn't one realization. I'm sure it
mm,
was you learned through the hard way of why do I keep doing this to myself and I have to make a
and
decision on this. You
yeah,
mentioned you mentioned something earlier about that you noticed a shift in your kind of didn't like turning 30, really enjoyed turning 40 and really enjoyed
yeah.
turning 50. And if we go back to also the hormonal changes you were experiencing as well, have you recognized the pattern about why 30 wasn't good, but 40 was good and 50 was also great?
I think 30 wasn't, I think at 30, I had so much to prove. I had so much I wanted to do. I had
Mm.
so much I didn't know about myself and that I needed to find out whether I could. And yeah, I had a lot ahead of me that I really knew I wanted to do. And bizarre. Um, it was strange because I married my first marriage. I married very young, and I should have I think people thought I should be having babies and, being a wifey, and I didn't. That wasn't really what I wanted to do. So I just had a lot to prove. I felt to myself. So I was so fortunate to have been able to jump some incredible horses and jump at the highest level nationally, and go, yeah, you can do this, and know that I can, and I did. But then actually I've taken it in a different direction anyway. So the coaching, but that's been I had to have done that for myself. And I think I was in a different space at 40, and had worked through all of that. And I just feel like you gain the knowledge and you gain a bit more reassurance internally when you're sort of getting into your 40s, and then turning 50. My stepdad, he said, he used to have a phrase of saying, I wish I was 18 again and know what I know, and know what I know now. And I never understood what that meant, but yeah, I don't wish I was 18, but I feel it's really nice as you grow into your knowledge, and you grow into yourself, and you understand yourself. That's really key, is to understand yourself, and definitely will have made mistakes with clients, with horses, those things I was just talking about. That's just part of your journey, isn't it, and your life, and becoming who you are.
It's going back to what you said earlier about your the ligaments that you noticed in your knee.
Yeah,
And along that same route now, we've got so much more research to support women going through perimenopause. I think the latest research was 10 to 15 years you could be starting before you
yeah,
officially hit that non-cycle of a year for 12 months. And the other thing I was reading of the day was how our brains actually change as well. So as women going through perimenopause into menopause, and I was thinking like when I look back and I've worked with women around the world, and I'm sure you've seen this with coaching as well, like there seems to be a pattern where women hit a real like I'm generalizing here. This is just the pattern I've seen, like a real period of self-doubt, anxiety, questioning
yeah,
everything, unsure. And then I don't know if it's a combination of the hormonal changes and if you are going to get HRT or you're not, depending on your life and things like that, how something changes where some women just go, okay, that period's done. And now
yeah,
I'm into that next period of I know who I want to work with. I know the horses I want to work with. I know who I don't want to work with. And I'm okay saying no.
yeah,
And I've seen this, and I'm sure there'll be some studies coming out in the future where this is proven because I see it a lot where women are like, they either don't like their 30s, they're going through this change, or they get it in their 40s, they don't like the change. I certainly feel like in my from 35 onwards, I've done a lot more questioning, a lot more
yeah,
figuring out this process that I think you've been through of actually how many horses do I want to work with in a day? That's not going to really burn me out. So I come home feeling, those moments where you've pushed yourself so much that you sit at home just like staring into space, don't want to talk to anyone because you're just overstimulated.
yeah,
You've reached the point of nothing can go in. Um,
yeah.
and I'm sure there is a link between also for those of us that are either going through the changes, and how that's affecting us away from horses.
Definitely. I haven't probably told you about the biggest one of mine, which actually, as you were saying it like that, yeah, for sure, the hormones had something to do with it. So, oh, for about the last, I don't know, let's say 3 years, 4 years maybe, I've been knowing a big change is needed. No, I'm going to say it was more than that, 4 or 5 years, knowing a big change is needed, and knowing it was coming, not knowing what it was, but knowing that it was going to happen, and having my eyes open for it. So I think it would have been, oh, where are we now? So we're 26, 25, yeah, 2024, probably around September. So it coincided with having been on the HRT for a year, feeling much better. Suddenly hit a massive bump, hormonal, physical, mental, hit a brick wall. Um, got got in touch with the doc. because I said, oh my God, all this stuff's happening. I couldn't sleep.
Mm.
My skin felt like it was going to fall off. My eyes were puffy as if I'd been crying nonstop, which I was doing a fair amount of as well. Um, like dry skin, um, couldn't sleep, insomnia, just inside my own head all the time. Just everything felt wrong
Mm.
and made some, bless my lovely husband. And this is the other thing is that men need to understand this so they can help you because they've got to go through it as well.
Be prepared.
My
Yeah.
God. They've got to watch, make helpful suggestions, not
Mm.
too many, or else it might get shouted at. And so basically, I just knew a massive change was needed. So I started to really look for that massive change. And that, in the end, that change manifested itself into me giving up the lovely yard that I had here in Suffolk, where it was a perfect scenario, the perfect setup. I got everything that I wanted in terms of coaching. But it just didn't feel right. It just wasn't working for me. And I ended up going for the great big job that I'm now in, which is just insane that I walked straight into that, which is as head of equestrian sports at Millfield School. Now Millfield's in Somerset, and I live in Suffolk, and that's 4 hours away. And I've moved, and my husband is still here in Suffolk, and we're working out how that works.
Mm.
And it's a massive job, a massive challenge, but it's exactly what I wanted. And it's a culmination of everything I've done in my life in one role. It's a total change. I've got heaps of colleagues, which is wonderful because actually working for yourself can be quite lonely. I'm learning so much. I'm challenged, I'm stretched. The horsey part of it is really normal and the stuff that I know and that I'm used to. But I'm also getting to learn about how private school works, all the different things around, admissions and fees and finance and how a school works because I've never worked in a private school before or in any school before. But it's education, it's youngsters, it's training, it's horses, it's running a business, if you like. It's the equestrian centre. We've got two. They're like running a business, the staff, everything like that. So that was an enormous leap,
Mm.
and it didn't happen, instantly. It probably happened over a period of about 6 months. That was definitely hit a big bump in the road and had to make a massive change. So thanks,
So
hormones.
I'm interested in that. So like once you again there is science behind this, but your body reacting the way it did,
Mm,
you said like the dry skin, the insomnia, like that's going to affect everything in your life, especially we know how important sleep is. But when you then made that big leap, which you said just happened to happen quite naturally and quickly, or the words you use, but what happened to your symptoms?
yeah, that was all sorted. Yeah, I mean, I sent a photo of my face to one of my best friends, she's a little bit older than me, and I was like, "What can I do to my face?" Because it just looked horrific because my eyes were fully swollen, dry skin, everything. And so her brilliantly practical advice was like, right, we're going to research all the skincare and we're going to get you the most simple, natural stuff, and so that was a big help. And I think mentally as well, because you've got someone sort of giving you some practical help. That was huge. That was another, oh my God, thank God for friends. And why don't we reach, or why don't I reach out? Probably because we just take it all on to ourselves and try and figure it out.
Mm.
And so that was a huge help. But yeah, absolutely. As soon as the wheels were in motion and I started to make decisions in the right direction, I decided to finish, my lease on the yard before anything else had come into place. But I knew that that's what I had to do. Yeah.
I was I was thinking about what you were saying about almost having this like body experience of your body like screaming at you, if we keep it very simple, all these symptoms coming up, and
Yep,
then you feel like, even though practically it made sense, right? The yard's at home, close to home, this
yep,
would work. I'm going to have what I always wanted, and then the
yep.
body reacting this way, and then you just knowing this isn't right, um,
No.
and deciding, okay, I'm going to get a job 4 hours away. But there's something that you've really hit the nail on the head when it comes to, again, women going through any form of hormonal symptoms or uncertainty, is the isolation of this industry. And, you know, I'm just looking at this, having heard this for the first time, going, I wonder if your body was also like, listen, take on a lease of a yard, the responsibility, the stage of your hormonal age that you are, like, you need to be around people. And I think being
Yep,
around like-minded people who you say do challenge you, you're being stretched and
yeah,
still learning. But that is a huge kind of elephant in the room that's not very much spoken about with women, is especially question women, because we're so hardy and we want to get stuff done and practical, but
yeah.
we also, community is so important, that support.
Huge. It is, and it's something. It's still really something in me that would love to create a community. Would love to create something that supports. And obviously, I focus on coaches, being a coach, and just understanding how hard that job can be and how isolating that job can be. There's a great association in the UK called the British Grooms Association, and I would really love to create something like that for coaches. And I think it's just something I need to. I've talked to quite loads of people about it. I don't know what it could be or why or how, but somehow we need to be better at being a community. I have understood then, when I've also reflected on sort of my coaching life, is I've always sought to be in scenarios where I'm either working for a governing body or in an organisation, where I'm collaborative, and it's not just me standing on
Mm,
my own, with. And there's been a lot of that as well, as a coach, you put yourself out there and you gain your clients and your client group, and they come and they go through a period of time, and sometimes that can be really traumatic too. That can be really hard or sad. These relationships don't last forever. Sometimes they last a very long time. But sometimes you put absolutely everything into a client who is really front and center of your world. And then for whatever reason, they go elsewhere, or you fall out, or they stop riding, or whatever. And that's really hard sometimes. I wouldn't, I was speaking to one of the other coaches at Millfield the other day, and we were reflecting on the same thing. That's the other part of the job I love at Millfield, is that I'm working with all these other sports and
mm,
coaches in other sports as well. It's not just I'm the equestrian bit. Um, but to hear from, and he's the head of endurance sports, again, such similar experiences of coaching, of relationships, of how you feel about those relationships, because you do put everything into them, and think as a community we can really support each other.
mm,
And I don't think we do it enough. Um, there's a lot of, defensiveness around, well, they're my clients. So
mm,
I have really, really, I'm the opposite of that. I love to send my clients, to someone who I think is going to be amazing, or work with other coaches. I really enjoy that, definitely. But it's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to get your head around. Yeah, it's our sometimes our fragile egos, if I dare say that, as well. That it's our business, it's our living, so we want to keep those clients.
mm,
But yeah, that's again something that I've learned I appreciate and need. Maybe it came from doing that TV show, because that was the first time I'd worked with other coaches. So there was Fred Bergendorf, who's the Swedish eventing chef to keep these days, myself, and then Jenny Ward, who was dressage judge. She's a phenomenal dressage judge. And a lovely lady, Mary Ann Trevorova, who's no longer with us. She was an eventing coach. And we had multiple coaches and multiple riders in the same arena. I'd never, ever had anything like that before in my life. And I liked it. I really loved it. I loved that, interaction and sharing. And once you've got over am I being judged, or what's going on? That I remember that very fleetingly, but I love it.
Mm.
Um, yeah,
We
that's
both have
my
a
learning.
very similar outlook on that. I travel the world working with horses and
Yeah,
now the riders, and I'll always say to someone when they're like, "Oh, do you want to book me in again for like 2, 3 weeks?" And I'm like, "No, I'd rather you work with someone local that's here and
yeah,
work as a team around this because
yes,
it's yes, it's in a way, and I've actually had a very similar idea for equestrian body workers to
mm,
set up more of this foundation community where you bring case studies, but also you don't feel like the sole decisions are always on you. Because I
yeah,
think as an equestrian, you go in and you have this new client, and then you want to give them everything. You almost get so emotionally invested into it,
you
and
do.
then, as you say, people change or whatever happens, that it ends up the relationship either goes elsewhere or something out of the blue happens and they move to a different practitioner and
Yeah,
you take it to heart and there's no
yeah.
real I suppose that's part of life. We become more resilient. But I was going to ask you along that note is do you think that maybe the equestrian sport has almost rewarding women for being more, you know, strong, being more resilient and pushing it almost like that no pain, no gain mentality. And there's not always been enough support education around actually I'm not saying how are you feeling today, let's all have a cry about it, but actually, what is what's the avenue I can go down because I am feeling like I'm self-doubt. 5 years ago I was all I'm going to go all in and it was all about the one lane, but now I've got this
Yeah,
different approach and I'm starting to question
yeah,
everything.
yeah.
Do you think that maybe we're also starting to break down those barriers
I
today?
do, I do think we are. I do actually. But then maybe that's, I'm seeking that connection, and I'm educating myself, and I'm speaking to people, and I understand that it's a need.
Mm,
I think I think it is seeping through. It doesn't mean we're not, hearty, tough horsewomen. Uh, You know, of course we are. We've got to work in the dark and the cold and the rain and the wind, and we work with our horses. It's physical, and that doesn't change that. But I think we can be more measured about it and understand ourselves as humans and what we need. And whether that's just picking up the phone to a colleague and having a chat and sharing a coaching conversation. I would say I'm probably not very good at doing that, but for example, when I'm training with my lovely friend Mandy, who's a coach, we've known each other for years, and now I'm in her area, so I'm training on my horse with her. We spend half our session having a fantastic coaching conversation, which absolutely does so much for me and hopefully for her too. And that's brilliant. I'm much better face to face than I am, just to sort of reach out to someone. And I've recognized that I know when I need to share stuff. I know when I need to download. Um, I was also just thinking about, those relationships and how you invest in them. And that's so important. And just to, recognize what you have achieved with a rider, or where that relationship has gone and what you've learned from each rider. And even if it might hurt when that relationship ends for whatever reason. Um, Again, one of my colleagues said to me the other day that, he'd far rather feel that, hurt, or whatever, than not, because it makes the joy and the highs uh, such a better experience. So you've got to go through the ups and the downs. It's such a cliche, but it's true. You can't dumb it all down and go, oh, I don't care. I don't care if I win or I lose. I don't care if you're here or you're not. That's just a defense, isn't it? And I think if you got yourself into that space, yeah, if I ended up like, I never would, but I have to be okay with, oh God, that really hurts, or that's really stressful, or oh my God, that's amazing. I'm so excited. I'm so proud of that
mm.
person's achievement. And that goes hand in hand.
So,
Um,
so true there. Given what you've been through with your own health journeys and the recognize, like as I work with a lot of women where I'm treating the horse, and I'm seeing the same conversation pattern. And then I asked the rider, so how are you? And I worked with a lady the day, she's 42, and she's like, I've suddenly got frozen shoulder. She was like,
Yeah,
I don't know where this has come from. And we're linking this to she's had her bloods done, had everything checked, and we now know why. But
yeah.
do you recognize now patterns in female riders when you're coaching them that you've seen in yourself that you're like, okay, we need a different approach here? Um,
Yeah.
how do you navigate
Yeah.
that?
Um, so first, just linking it to body work. When my horse is treated, her body reflects my body
Yeah.
completely. So, yeah. So my asymmetry and her asymmetry are the same. Got to have come from me, right? So how do you navigate that? So again, it's education, and sometimes people are ready for education. Sometimes they're not.
Yeah.
So it may land or it may not. It it could be again a little bit. We were talking earlier about the very successful businessman. You might have a similar with a very successful businesswoman who's got, the time and the finances to, invest in her hobby. But again, you've got to be humble about it and understand, the process. I think this sounds very generic, but women are more open to feeling what's going on with the horse. That can actually be to their detriment sometimes, in that they'll go completely the other way, and they'll feel and notice every single thing. So
Mm.
we always need that middle ground. Working with teenagers, and actually those horses, though, when they're at their worst and they really, they can't control their hormones, they're all over the place, they feel so grumpy and so angry and don't know what to do with themselves, and things go wrong, and it's a disaster, the worst thing in the planet. Actually, those horses will educate them to control their emotions and to understand how to channel them. And definitely working with a few at the moment who are going through that process and learning that. And when you have those little breakthrough moments, it's so brilliant. And again, just the horses helping us to be better humans.
That's
Bless them.
I love sometimes I always ask why they let us why they do it.
Exactly.
I'm hoping they never will because, we love them. But that's interesting what you said about the teenagers. And so as a coach, do you navigate that like emotional regulation or understanding on the horse, or is it something that you do prior to being on the horse?
Probably well, in my role, mainly on the horse, but definitely, around, off and in between. It may be in a variety of communication forms, depending on who they are and where
Mm.
they are and what relationship I have with them. So as a coach to rider relationship, I really keep my lines of communication open. I always encourage to share videos of rounds or other training or anything that they're doing, and feeding back, and keep it making it fun, and sharing information. That's really key, and that's something that I find really, really important. What I've had to recognize in my other role at the school is that I'm, as the boss, as it were. I'm not the certainly not their only coach. We have a whole team of coaches, and I'm not working directly with all of them all the time, but I am working with them indirectly. And I've had to recognise I wear a slightly different hat, even though I don't think I do. To them, I do,
Mm.
and that's been a bit hard to get my head around. But it's the role, it's the title, that's all. I am, for me in my heart, I'm the coach, but in that role I'm not. I'm also, the head of equestrian, and with that it sort of comes a bit of, other responsibilities. So again, that's collaborating with coaches, um, managing the whole shooting match really. So it's a yeah, that's one where I've had to sort of figure out. Some of the riders that I've worked more closely with, I've definitely signposted elsewhere. I think
Okay.
that's so key, um, to sports site coaches, coaches that are, maybe a good supplement to them in school as well. It's a little bit strange because we don't see them the whole year, because obviously in the holidays they go elsewhere. So making sure that they're getting the right support elsewhere in those holiday periods, sort of gently encouraging or, pointing in the right direction. So there's a whole, again, a bigger remit, but that appeals to me. As I was saying earlier, I love to signpost to the right people and get the help. Um, and I've got the privilege in that environment to bring in other coaches too. Um, I think it's high on my agenda going forwards is more natural horsemanship, actually, groundwork, because we just want to be on and doing and working and jumping and but actually I think that's big on the agenda for the next 12 months.
I'm such an advocate, massive supporter. It's you actually touched on earlier about bringing fun back in,
Yeah,
and the reason I often advocate groundwork, it's not to again must be lunged or the horse must,
yeah,
do a million pole exercises.
yeah,
It's I and I'm still figuring out the wording for this because it very much depends on what you touched on earlier, which is where is the client at in
yeah,
their not only awareness, but people have so much going on in their lives that sometimes the horse is the outlet to just escape.
yeah,
It's like I
yeah,
want to ride my horse and just go away from life. It's like we go in a
yes,
bubble.
yeah,
And again, through my own experience, having been given a horse to ride that was a bolter, basically, he was very dangerous.
wow,
And I had to learn that riding him didn't work because he lived and thrived on adrenaline, not in a good
yeah,
way. It was like
yeah,
a nervous system chose that was the only way to cope with the stimulus. But I then learned about groundwork and not necessarily lungy, but fun. So making
mm,
it like a session of exploring. And I related
mm,
back to like pony club days. So as someone who came up through pony club, just having fun and putting some silly and not even silly, that's dumbing it down, like cones in the arena and
yeah,
like and then again when I talk about this nowadays on social media, my intention is actually there is a method behind the madness about
yeah,
bringing us into the present. And instead of thinking I'm just going to lunch for 20 minutes because I have 20 minutes, it's like what can I do in 20 minutes that's interactive with my horse that again actually brings me out of this state of escaping and brings me into the present, because I
yeah,
think that's the beauty of horses and what it
yeah,
fundamentally comes down to, no matter what age or gender we are, they make us better because they remind us to just be here
yes, 100%. I
in
think
this
that's
moment.
what I was meaning when I said earlier about, escaping into that coaching zone. And it's the same when you ride, of course, that you actually you just have to be present in the moment. You can't be distracted by other things because
Mm.
that's when they spook at nothing and
Yeah. Yeah. And then we think, what did they spook? Fix the
yeah,
spooking
just
behavior.
weren't concentrating.
I
No,
know
I
we
know.
are coming to the end. I just have a couple more questions for you, which
Yeah,
is one is, especially with the role that you're in now, say looking ahead, what changes would you most like to see within this sport? And again, I'm going to relate it back to supporting female health, whether they're a rider or a coach, professional in the industry. What changes
yeah.
would you like to see most?
So I'd say for that side of things, again, as I was saying earlier, so the collaboration piece, the community, that is absolutely huge. However we do it, I don't think I think as long as we're all thinking along those same lines and getting better at helping and supporting each other and, you know, actually talking, communicating, creating communities. There's lots of different communities popping up. Um, and from the student's point of view, or from the rider, from the rider and horse relationship, again, the as I said, high on the agenda for me is the groundwork, the natural horsemanship, the fun in it, as you were just talking about, and not, that we're not just drilling or riding or lunging just for the sake of it. We need to have the connection. The connection with the horse is everything. And
Mm,
when we are ultimately competing, if that's what we are aspiring to do, that's the thing that's going to get us the clear round or the win is that relationship with the horse because they're going to put that extra bit of effort in for us or look after us or say, don't worry, mum, I've got this. And if you haven't got that relationship, it's not going to happen. You can't manufacture it. Um, I really, I'm so happy the route that the sport is going down in terms of what they call the social license to operate, but being more conscious of welfare. I'm encouraging and annoying all of my students to throw away their whips or their padded batons, that as we call it. If they sort of, the standard response to, oh, it's not really off my leg today, can I have a schooling whip? The answer is no. We work out how we do it better, and we think about why they're not off your leg today, or how we could be more effective. Very boring, but very, very necessary. And that for me is everything, is for the good of the horse, the welfare of the horse, and ultimately the longevity of the sport, which is the thing that I love my sport. I love the training. I love the connection with the horse. That's what it comes back to. Um, so yeah, the way those things are going, I'm really happy for. I've forgotten the other part of the question. Nika,
No,
was
no,
that around?
that's it. That's it. Supporting female health. We've mentioned the jodhpur changes, which I found so interesting that the younger generation are actually still want to wear the white. The other thing is there much talk about, even things like correct bra fit and stuff like that when it comes to coaching younger
Yeah,
students? Again, very personal to me. Like, I remember wearing like two different sports bras at the same time during that phase of your cycle, doing sitting trot, and then
yeah.
also being coached by a male coach. Again, he was lovely, but it was my perception, to be honest, and say like the reason I'm appalling at sitting trot today is because I'm at this stage of my cycle and I'm wearing two sports bras to
I
cope
know,
with
but
the
he
pain.
was he didn't want to know. Bless him. Yes. So I'm really, yeah, and I haven't got that right yet. I actually went for a bra fitting in M&S the other day, and like my body's really changing, and some of it I don't like. And on your social media, these adverts pop up and go, yeah, this bra, you need this bra. And I'm thinking, that's exactly what I need. Now, hang on a minute, let's not go down that rabbit hole because I'm a sucker for it. So I went to M&S for a bra fitting the other day. I was like, good. Um, I was only one cup size out, which she said was very good. And I asked to try a couple of their sports bras. Oh my God, they were awful. Um, Absolutely terrible. Didn't buy an M&S sports bra. Um, yeah, one of them I couldn't breathe. It was like having something
Yeah.
stretched around me. It was terrible. Um, I'm really proud again of at school. Our director of sport has linked with a bra manufacturer, sports bra manufacturer, for our female students, and that's sort of kicking off in June. And I really hope that we're going to be able to access that as well. Um, I was lucky enough to be there's a oh my gosh, again, what is the name again? The Well HQ is a collective of fantastic women who have written the Women's Body Bible. And I was part of a British Equestrian seminar that they delivered, and there was a lot of sports bra recommendation and talk. And there is research about how your performance is affected depending on your bra fit. I'm not sure that I've got it 100% right yet either. Um, and I know what I like. I know what helps me. But I still feel like, oh, I really want to do better with this. Um, One thing I didn't mention to you, but I will, is that at some stage during my lovely perimenopausal diaries, I started having to wear cycling pants and two pairs of pants when I was riding because it was very painful. Um, Again, thought that was my issue. Actually, wasn't my issue, as it turns out. That there is something you can do about it. Again, as part of your HRT treatment, there is a thing called vaginal estrogen, which helps keep that area of your body plump, was the way they described it to me. Because it actually then can become really painful to be sitting in the saddle. Um, Thought it was all me. Had this conversation in a women's health webinar. All the women on the webinar went, oh yeah, me too. Thanks for asking that question. Didn't dare ask it, thought it was a bit too much. But the Stephanie Bradley is the lady that was hosting that, and she's done lots of research. She's also a saddle fitter. And one of the top tips I gained from her was I have taken like a shim, like a foam shim, and cut it the size of the skirt on my saddle. So I ride in a close contact in Boutte, absolutely love it. But just by popping some padding underneath the skirts of the saddle, it slightly widened the twist, and that
Mm,
really helped me a lot and made it a lot more comfortable for me, and as well as starting on this other form of HRT or hormone, it is HRT, isn't it?
mm,
Um, and as soon as I mentioned that to my doctor, she was like, "Yep, that's not a problem. We can sort that. That's what you need." And I'm just like, "Oh my God, why didn't I say this ages ago?" As I'm wearing 3 pairs of cycling pants and wondering, what the heck is going on with myself, and it being very painful after riding to go to the loo and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, again, it's that whole discovery of things that you think is your problem, but actually are really common symptoms, and there are
mm,
so many of them. But yeah,
mm.
so there you go,
Really
sports bras,
appreciate
pants.
you sharing that. The pants is it's the same with the period pants as well.
Yeah,
They've been a lifesaver to me. Um,
yes,
but again, not many women know about it. I remember I doing
yeah,
a post the other day on my social media about wearing period pants, and
yeah,
actually quite young girls going, "How did these exist? I had no idea these were even available." Because
yeah,
wearing a tampon is great for some women who might have a regular kind of normal flow, if there is such a thing, versus someone who's a bit heavier who goes through a tampon a lot easier, and then
yeah.
you're sat on this horse,
Yeah, just have
whatever
the
session.
period pants as well, and you feel a
Yeah,
lot more relaxed about
yeah, yeah,
everything. Definitely.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's it is interesting as well. So then thanks for sharing about also the pain, because that is something I've read also with pelvic angle of women compared to
Mm.
men and how we sit in the saddle is also
Yeah.
totally different
Yeah.
um, and it's good to be aware of. And this is the kind of reason why we're having these talks, right? It's for education, but also support for women who might feel it. We go straight for the practical, like where I wear double sports bras when really just go get a correctly fit sports bra
Yeah.
once, you're good. And it's good to have these conversations. So thank you. My
Definitely
final
no.
question
Go on.
is nothing to do well with female health. It's actually to do with what is one of the key lessons you've learned with working with horses?
Oh, what is a key lesson? I think I want to say something about reflection. I want to say something about they're like a mirror to you. So to learn about yourself through them, um, yeah, that they are a mirror to hold up, to reflect onto you, and to enable you to understand yourself better, so that you can work with them better, or
Just
just be with
following on
them.
from that, have you ever had a moment where you don't want to hear that? You know, when you probably think, "Oh, it's my horse mirroring me," but you're like, "No."
No, because I know it. Because I know my type. Uh, as I said, I've had so many amazing mares, and it is hilarious how these mares over the years they have similar things they do, and I'm like, well, that can only be me. I don't know how I'm doing that, but that can only be me. A funny thing, when if I'm hacking with someone else. And all of my mares have done this. Again, it can only be me. They will pull dragon faces at that horse that they do not encroach their space. Don't know. Yeah. They won't do anything, but they'll look like they're going to. And my current mare does it. I've had over 10 years. Previous mare, absolutely. So yeah, well, I don't know what vibes I'm giving off, like, do not get in my space. And I just
Boundary.
laugh. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, horses are your mirror. It
I
is a
think so.
great lesson.
Yeah, really. Yeah, I think that's the yes. And the more you know, the more you understand you, that's really key. That's probably a thing of also probably something I've enjoyed of, getting older, is that you learn more about you. I definitely have wondered whether I've been a bit slow to do that, but I don't think it's a fast process. So yeah, that self-awareness is
Key.
everything.
Yeah. I'm going to
Yeah.
replace the getting older with getting wiser.
Getting wiser,
That's my
yes.
shift. So when someone says how old I am, I go, I'm level 37 currently. It sounds in my mind, it just sounds so much better than saying
Yeah.
the age. Yeah. So
Season 53
yeah,
of this.
level. I love it. Thank you so much for joining. And
Thank you,
if
Nika.
someone was to get in contact with you, where can they do that?
Well, I'm everywhere. They can do that on the socials. And I'm on all, well, I'm not on all of them. LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram are my social go-tos. Um, this sounds ridiculous. You can search me into Google and I'll pop up somewhere. I'm on the British Show Jumping website, you know, through Millfield School as well. But yes, I'm not hard to find. That's a scary thought.
I'll pop your contact details on the website down below
Yeah,
anyway for people
absolutely.
to get in touch if they want to. And
Yeah,
thank you for
happy.
joining.
Thank you. I will, yeah, I think it's brilliant. Well done, you. And thank you for having me.